What's up guys, Eric from Sonic. Today I want to go ahead and go through the most frequently asked troubleshooting question on our sound adapters. These sound adapters are used when you're replacing your factory radio to an aftermarket radio using this plug-and-play T-harness that comes with it, including our sound interface over here. This is going to be applicable not only to the SLX 81A that you see over here, but it's also going to be applicable to our SLA series, the MVX series, and all our radio replacement kits. So if you have issue with one of them, go ahead and make sure you're listening carefully. So first, when you get this kit, you will also receive these matching bullet connectors. And as you can see, we already crimped on bullet connectors on this harness. And it's crimped on really nice, like it's really good. So when you're installing this, make sure you use the supply bullet connectors, because for some reason you want to return this kit to us and it's cut, like it's going to be very difficult for us to give you a full refund. And we want to make sure you get your full refund if something happens. So definitely make sure you do not cut these. And we also have a little paper that says do not cut these and use these instead. All right, so the first main issue or troubleshooting question that we have is your adapter only has connection for 2 front speakers. And that is true. The reason why it only has connections for 2 front speakers is Lexus amplifiers are only 2-channel amplifiers, and how it controls the sound from the front to rear speaker is from the factory amplifier electronically. As such, all you need to connect are the 2 front speaker wires. So you're going to have 2 rear speaker wires coming from your new aftermarket radio. You're going to keep that disconnected. And even if you only connect the 2 front speaker wires, you are still going to get sound from both front and rear speakers. And you might ask, how do I control fader? Unfortunately, for models without factory navigation and you're replacing the whole deck, because the fader controls are on the factory radio itself, if you removed it, unfortunately you cannot control the fader after you install some of our kits. However, if you have a model with navigation, such as the MVX 140L, it's the Lexus IS with nav, and then if you change it to a new radio, you can control fader going into the sound setting through your factory screen. So you could go ahead and change the fader from that. But if you are once again replacing the whole entire radio that has a fader controls on it, you will unfortunately lose the ability to control the fader. For Lexus LS models, you will be able to control the fader on the steering wheel controls. So the steering wheel control track is actually going to become fader, the track up and down. So when you tap on the track up, it's going to fader to the front speakers. And when you press the track down, it's going to control the fader to the rear speakers. This is true for the Lexus LS and the Lexus SC models, those 2 kits that we have. They're the MVA 23 and also the MVA 24 and also the MVA 12 and 13L. All those, you'll be able to control the fader using the track up and down buttons. All right, okay, the next most frequently asked troubleshooting question is, my fader is off. I have too much sound coming in the front, not enough in the rear, or vice versa, too much sound in the rear and not much in the front. This issue most likely happens on SC and LS customers. The SC has either MVA 12L or the MVA 13L. The Lexus LS customer has either the MVA 23L or the MVA 24L. So those are the part numbers that you guys have this issue with. So when the fader is off front and rear, all you have to do is go to your steering wheel control button and look for the seek button. This is a track up and down button that would originally be used to change your track to the next track or the previous track. And go ahead and tap on that. If there's too much sound on the rear, not in the front, go ahead and tap the up track button. So it's the next track, and that will push the sound from the rear speakers to the front, because that becomes your fader. And vice versa, if there's too much sound in the front, no sound in the back, go ahead and press the back rear seek or the track button, and it will transfer the sound from the front to the rear. And go ahead and play around with those buttons until you are able to get a good balance of your sound from front and rear speakers. All right, so the next most asked troubleshooting question is you get no sound. We installed your kit and it's just sound's not coming out. That's usually mainly due to the fact that something is not connected or something's not connected correctly. So when you are testing for sound, make sure all the connectors from the car is connected back. I mean, even the connector that goes to the factory screen, that random connector that was on the side of your radio or whatnot, everything needs to be connected or else you might not hear sound. The second is make sure all these connections are connected, every single one, including this blue wire over here, okay? These blue wires, this is the amplifier remote wire. And this is a trigger to turn on the factory amp. Without this, the factory amp will not turn on and you will not get sound. The next most frequently asked question is, my sound has distortion or is clipping going on? So that is due to the balance between your factory amplifier and your new radio head unit. So once you go ahead and replace the radio using our adapter, the two part numbers, the 4 part numbers, the MVA12L, the MVA13L, the MVA23L, and the MVA24L could potentially have this issue if you don't have it balanced out well. And how you fix this clipping or distortion on the sound is first go ahead and change the aftermarket radio volume to about 50%. And it depends on which aftermarket radio you use. The number could vary. It could be somewhere like 15 or so forth. For Pioneer units, I believe it's about 15. That's about 50%. Go ahead and put it there. And after you put it there, go to your steering wheel control button and change the volume to make it a pleasant listening volume level. By doing so, you should be able to find a balance where it won't give you any distortion or any clipping. So the clipping happens when the factory amplifier level is too low and then the volume on the aftermarket radio is too high. You might be wondering, how does that happen? So if you go to your aftermarket radio, if your volume is like almost maxed out, while your steering wheel control volume is all the way low, then that will happen. So the best way is to keep the aftermarket radio volume at one level, say for like 15, and then only use the steering wheel control to control the volume level. Or if you rather control on the aftermarket radio, just after you find that medium, do not touch your steering wheel control and only use the aftermarket radio volume control to control your volume after that. So that's the best solution. The reason why something like this will happen is because the steering wheel control actually controls the volume level on the factory amp. So the factory amp gain will be controlled using the factory steering wheel control, and then aftermarket volume control has its own volume controller. So that's how you fix the distortion and also the clipping and some weird sound quality issues that you might have from using our kit. All right, another sound related question or troubleshooting issue that we get asked from time to time is after we installed it using our kit, the balance from left and right is off and it's just like only one speaker is working and that speaker is not. That usually happens because the factory amplifier has a stored memory that it has kept from your factory head unit. So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and put the factory radio back onto your vehicle and make sure you center every single volume level. So center your balance level, okay, left and right. Center your front and rear fader and also put your volume to about 50% and then turn off the vehicle and then take off the factory radio and replace it with the aftermarket one. If your fader and balance and your volume level is all on funky levels before you take it off, then you might experience something like that because it remembers its last store setting that you use on your factory stereo system. And this will mainly affect vehicles or mainly affect adapters such as the LS, the SC, even the IS, and it could actually even affect the GX. So go ahead and make sure you do that. And after you go through that cycle of putting the factory radio back on, it should go ahead and reset it and your problem should be fixed. All right, so we got one more troubleshooting question that I want to cover. This doesn't get asked too much times, but I'm going to go ahead and just cover it with you, which is, Some of our stereo replacement adapters comes with a video input cable that could be for the IS, the SC, and also for the LS. And it allows you to display an external video onto your factory screen. And some people, if you just get a black screen, they can't get a video to show up. Mainly, that's due to the setting on your aftermarket radio. All the aftermarket radio settings are very much different, so make sure you go through the manual on your aftermarket radio to figure it out. But a lot of people like to connect the video out from the aftermarket radio onto the video into our harness. So it's because your aftermarket radio is not outputting the video signal. So in order to do that, you might have to go through some steps and change some things in settings. And if you want to just go ahead and test to see if the video input will show, once the video signal goes up, you could connect like a DVD player you have or some sort of a device that has video coming out and try connecting it. If it's working, it should display a video on the top screen. Also, just make note that the video will only show when the vehicle is parked with the side brake up. If you want to bypass that and you want the video in motion to work, there are some additional harnesses that you could purchase from us. Either that, or if you have the SC, we have instructions on how to bypass the video lockout on the factory screen. All right, well, that concludes the troubleshooting guide for our stereo replacement adapters. If you have any further questions, if you're running into any other issues, go ahead and shoot us an email at info@bsonicusa.com and we'll be sure to help you out. Thank you.